King Radio Network at ParanormalKing.com.
Welcome to the Paranormal News Insider for the week of August 6th, 2019. And this is officially episode number 403. And this is your host, Dr. Brian D. Parsons. And we are live on the Paranormal King Radio Network at ParanormalKing.com. And wow, August already. I don't know. It's seems like the year's just moving by awful fast. I don't know if it's just me, but it's already August. It's already a week into August. I think that's a little crazy. I don't know. Well, we'll see. Next thing you know, it'll be Christmas. I don't know. But let's take it one step at a time. It just seems like it was just summertime last week. But yeah, it's been stormy, rainy, hot. Had some thunderstorms go through. It's raining out right now, but nothing really super major for right now, for tonight. But I think it's still summertime for the next few weeks, and we'll see what the fall holds. And this is it's going to be an interesting fall, I think, especially for the paranormal, seeing what kind of stories are going to happen. And of course, we've got that interesting event happening at the end of September that we're going to talk about again tonight. What's up with that? Some interesting news out of Facebook, and we'll talk about the event in Kentucky about Bigfoot. We're going to talk Storm Loch Ness creates some concern for Nessie, and talk for my Canadian friends. Ogopogo can't hide from all of us. I'll talk about Lauren Coleman. He's got a book list out. And again, the Storm Area 51 event gets some backlash from Facebook. But did it stop the runners? We'll find out. MUFON, I've got their sighting statistics for the month of July. And I got a couple of other stories I might have time for. Well, you know what? I'll run one here in a second. But I first want to talk about, as I do each and every week, and everybody loves this, the Paranormal Conferences Conventions list at paranewsinsider.com. So you go to paranewsinsider.com, you look at the top there. The second link from the left is events. I mean, you click on home, it's not going to change very much. It's going to look the same. So you click on events, it's going to pull up a nice little list of conferences and conventions. I have them put into three distinct sections. One is ghost conferences, conventions. One is UFO events, and the other is cryptozoology events. And I have them separated like this because of whatever the main focus is of that event is what I put on there. It doesn't mean that they don't have some of the other types of speakers. It just means that that's the most that you're going to get from that event based on what I've seen or what I've interpreted. And this is a pretty good list. I'd put this up against anybody, and frequently this list is getting copied, which I don't recommend that, because I continuously add stuff to this. It's continuously evolving as I get more information, and purposely have not put some sites on here because they're in question, or they may not get put on, or stuff hasn't been updated. So I try not to get too far out ahead, and then after that, then I kind of I fall behind. And I forget to put them up here. Well, that's my fault. But with that in mind, I need your guys' help. You, the listeners out there, if you know of an event that's going on in your neck of the woods, North America neck of the woods, let me know. And I'll get this on here as quick as I can. You can find me throughout all social media: Facebook, Paranews Insider, Twitter, at Paranews Insider. And also the website, don't forget about that, paranewsinsider.com. There's a contact tab at the top. You can just get a hold of me right away. And this weekend, we actually have some stuff going on. The Kansas City Paracon takes place August 9th and the 10th in where else but Kansas City. Well, which Kansas City? Kansas City, Missouri. And See, we only got one other ghost event for the month of August, the 10th annual Michigan Paranormal Convention, August 22nd to the 24th in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. And I'm trying to remember. I know I added one to this. Yes, I did. Fleetwood Paracon. I added this one just a couple of days ago. The Fleetwood Paracon takes place October 12th in Brandy Station, Virginia. Get your tickets for that event. And, stuff is popping up for this fall. I know there's a few that are happening right around Halloween, but I've not seen any official announcement yet, or maybe I've missed it. So as soon as I hear about that, I'll throw those up there. And pretty much, I'd say there's like 20, 30 states represented here. It's all over the place. A lot of Michigan stuff, Pennsylvania stuff, Ohio stuff. But I did have an event from Hawaii. We got one for Utah earlier this year, and upcoming we have a couple in Arizona. It's nice weather out there, I'm sure. So keep your eyes peeled at this listing. Yes, also one in Nevada. Not that event. The Shockfest Paraculticon, November 22nd to the 24th in Las Vegas, Nevada. UFO events. Let's see what's coming up. Nothing this weekend. I do have the 2019 Ohio MUFON Conference taking place August 17th in Belleville, Ohio. And cryptozoology events. This weekend is the 4th annual UP Bigfoot Conference. That's the Upper Peninsula for the non-Michiganders. August 10th in Munising, Michigan, and I think that's the one with, I'm pretty sure Dr. Jeff Meldrum and Cliff Barrickman will both be at that event. So if you're anywhere near the UP, you might want to take a peek at that event and see what's coming up. That is Saturday, the 10th. Gosh, we're almost halfway through already, the month of August. Also this month, the Oregon Bigfoot Festival 2019, August 17th in Troutdale, Oregon. And rounding out the month, the International Bigfoot Conference and Film Festival, August 30th through September 1st in Kennewick, Washington. And it's a pretty big list of cryptid events this year. My UFO events is a little bit bigger than it was last year. And ghost events usually dominates. It dominates. I did have one little story I want to talk. I'm just going to throw this out. I think it's pretty funny. And I know somebody mentioned in the chat room, and if you're not listening live, or if you are listening live, thank you. I appreciate that. And if you're not in the message, not the message board, the chat room. Geez. If you're not in the chat room, you're more than welcome to jump in and hang out. I got a few pictures to share in the chat room. Also, if I remember, maybe I'll share some links in there as well to stories, and people ask questions, and I do my best to answer them as I can without sounding like I'm, like a squirrel getting sidetracked. I call it rabbit holes. I get rabbit holes at work. I start talking about one thing, and the next thing you know, 4 stories into something else. But yes, I want to talk about, we're talking about alligators a few times this year, about people finding alligators in strange places. We've had, there was 3 sightings in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area earlier this year, and we had one up there in Chicago for some reason, in a little pond, and he had quite the following there for a little while. And last year we had a few as well, and I kind of gotten kind of excited about this, but there's only one little blurb about this. Only one story has been posted. I haven't seen anything since. Actually, I didn't even know this was happening at the time, but there was reports of a 1.5 meter long caiman. A caiman, that's some serious stuff. I'd rather deal with an, 1.5 meters is 5 foot. I'd rather deal with a 7-foot alligator than a 5-foot caiman. Those are pretty scary stuff. This was supposedly spotted by a fisherman in Lake Hallowell, which is about 50 kilometers west of Zurich. back on July 14th. It surfaced briefly, and as the story says, it scarfed down a duck. A duck. So I guess, it was close enough to see what it was. But yeah, a caiman in Switzerland. Never would have thought that. Obviously, that's probably more than likely a released wild animal. And even in Switzerland, it probably wouldn't last very long. And a spokesman, Bernard Grasser, told news site 20 Minuten that the search for this caiman has been called off. He says, quote, he's not doing any harm. I don't know how he knows it's a he. He isn't doing any harm. It's like a kangaroo roaming freely here. It doesn't belong, but it doesn't hurt either, unquote. Easy for you to say, till some kayaker gets his leg bit off by a 5-foot caiman. It's an awful big creature, but in even cool water, I would have a hard time living because it's going to lower its body temperature. It's not going to want to eat, and eventually it's just going to starve to death. It won't be able to catch any ducks. But yeah, it sounds like it's had a little bit to eat back on July 14th, but it's been almost a month. It's a pretty big animal, so who knows? But again, I've only found one link to this story, so I don't even know if it's true. But one link to that, and thought it was interesting to mention at least. But let's get into the regular cryptid news for the week, and this is pretty much the biggest Bigfoot story we've had in a while. And it's one of those that's kind of embarrassing. It's like you don't even want to talk about, really, as a person in cryptozoology. I don't always like referring to myself as a cryptozoologist, but I guess I could call myself that. As a cryptozoologist, these are the kind of stories that you don't like to talk about. It's embarrassing. It's not where you want this subject matter to go, but you've got to talk about it because it's painfully true that some people kind of act like this, and unfortunately, and this whole story, it sounds like it's out of a movie. And the story goes like this. A camper tells a scary tale to what happened to them out in the Kentucky woods. Strange noises woke them up at their campsite in the middle of the night. Weary-eyed, they see a light flashing in their tent. And he comes by, and this visitor comes in and says, something has destroyed his campsite. And the couple should be careful because they're in Bigfoot country. But don't worry. He's got a firearm. He's going to go find what was responsible. It sounds like a really bad movie in the making. But unfortunately, this is true. Moments later, gunshots erupted in the Mammoth Cave National Park. And the couple was more than frightened about this. They were able to call 911 somehow out in the middle of the woods. And they hiked 5 miles back to their car where they met up with rangers to explain the situation. Yes, and sadly, this was a real event that happened back on Sunday, July 28th. In Mammoth Cave National Park, law enforcement responded to the incident and were able to find the man with a gun. The man shot the firearm about 20 yards away from the couple's tent after he yelled, "I see it." And he sounded just like that. "I see it." And he started opening fire in the dark. And reportedly, there was at least 2 people that reported this or talked to the media about this, and neither person said that they heard or saw anything out there. So no word on the condition of this person that was firing in the night. No one was injured. We don't know about Bigfoot. If Bigfoot was injured, we don't know. We haven't heard from a spokesperson. But no people were injured in the incident, and there's really been no comments on the ongoing investigation into the incident. They say that they are investigating this, but since no one was injured, I don't know how far they're going to go with it. But they know the individual and wasn't arrested or anything, so it is illegal to shoot a firearm. I guess from what I read, spokesperson says that you can have a firearm in Mammoth Cave National Park, but you can't shoot it. So I don't know what the point of bringing a firearm with you if you can't use it. But I don't know. Maybe Bigfoot will run away if you show it to him. I don't know. But strange story. It's very viral lately. It's one of those laughable things. The media is starting to take UFOs a little bit more seriously. So maybe we just laugh at Bigfoot stories now. I don't know. But this is kind of embarrassing in my opinion. But anyway, let's move on to the Loch Ness area of Scotland. The Storm Loch Ness event, as we've mentioned over the course of the last, couple of weeks. Now, that event hasn't met the same following as the one set for September at Area 51, but it does seemingly have its own controversies. And we talked about the event announcement. And after that, lifeboat crew stated that a lot of people suddenly descending upon Loch Ness would create issues for rescue boats if people actually decided to jump into the lake looking for Nessie. Well, the water's cold, despite the recent high temperatures in the region, and would certainly cause some issues for people. It's very hard to see in that water. You can only see about 5-6 inches in Loch Ness due to the high amounts of peat. Not guys named Pete, but peat from the ground makes the water very, very dark. So you won't see that rock before it's too late if you dive down into the water. And you certainly won't be able to use snorkeling gear to find the Loch Ness Monster. Good luck with that. But they really think that people are going to run down there and everyone's just going to jump in the water at the same time. Oh, boy. Andy McGrath, author of Beasts of Britain, says this event makes a mockery of his study of the Loch Ness Monster and other strange animals in Britain, because everyone takes it super, super seriously. He also says this is a breach of Nessie's privacy. Yes, a breach of Nessie's privacy. So I don't know what that means. Maybe they're going to hear from his lawyer. I don't know, from Nessie's lawyer. He further says, quote, there are several reports of Nessie being frightened away by the noise of boats, with some witnesses claiming the monster has appeared distressed and suddenly submerged before approaching boats have come into view, unquote. I never realized that so many people got that close to Nessie that boats normally just cruise up to it. He almost sounds like Nessie normally just lets people get up close and pet it. And how does he know that how does he know that Nessie's submerged before the boats come into view? It's like, I don't know. It's like a spokesperson for Nessie. I don't understand how he knows all this or assumes all this. Anyway, where are all those reports? Where's the evidence at? People are petting Nessie. We're getting that close, and all of a sudden they can't. Is it because of this event? I don't think Nessie has I think Nessie has a Twitter feed, but I don't think Nessie's on Facebook. I don't think. Maybe somebody tipped him off. I don't know. But, if people are reporting the Loch Ness Monster's acting distressed, where's all that evidence? Something just doesn't add up about this. This guy's a little out there. I think he spent too much time diving in Loch Ness himself. The Storm Loch Ness event is set for September 21st and is seemingly fizzled out, kind of like the Bermuda Triangle event. And a quick mention on that one. The event owner for the Bermuda Triangle event set up a GoFundMe page that still has not broken the $140 that we talked about last Tuesday. $140 is where they're stuck of the $175,000 goal. And don't bother, folks. It's too late. I'm pretty sure he's probably moved on to other things at this point. He wanted to have a big party down in Miami. Not that there aren't a lot of parties in Miami anyway, even on a Tuesday night. Anyway, the Storm Area 51 event has quieted down, but we'll talk about that here in a second, how it's getting a little hotter again. But I think I don't know. I think this Nessie thing it's a joke, and now this guy coming for some attention really is all I think it is. He's trying to sell a couple more books. I don't get that. Nessie appears more distressed and suddenly submerged before approaching boats have come into view. What? I don't know. Seems a little crazy to me. Anyway, not to be outdone or to lose out on the attention, another event has been created that is similar to Storm Loch Ness. Of course, we've seen, 5 or 6 of these things, and people doing parodies of this as well for other things out there. But this one is really interesting. I think this is worth mentioning. This is kind of like one of my, I don't know what you call it, dark horse favorite cryptids that maybe hopefully one day is found. I don't know. I just like this guy. I think he's really cool. This one, however, is taking out in the middle of nowhere, in a little place called Kelowna, British Columbia. So what is out in Kelowna, British Columbia? Am I saying that right? Kelowna? Sure. What is out there? It's out in the middle of nowhere. British Columbia is pretty cool. It's a pretty nice place. But Kelowna is kind of a lonely little spot. Well, there's a nice lake there. And a lot of rain. Yes, there's tons of rain there. Thanks to the mountains. The mountains. Same thing that kind of happens in Seattle. Because the mountains makes it rain. Unless you're up north of Seattle, you have a rain shadow. Anyway, Kelowna, British Columbia is home to Lake Okanagan, for starters. And if sounds familiar, well, Lake Okanagan is known for Ogopogo. And there's an event on September 21st, kind of taking the steam out. Well, I guess, let's see, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So you still have time to go to both. I think if you go to the one in Loch Ness and then get on a plane and quickly fly, granted we don't have the Concords anymore, but if you quickly fly westward, you might have enough time to make it to Lake Okanagan in time on September 21st, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. for the event known as Storm Lake Okanagan. The Ogopogo can't hide from all of us. What an original name. So, yeah, let's storm it. Lake Okanagan. You can swim in that right now. It's decently warm. This is pretty much a ripoff of a ripoff of a ripoff. But it's nice to see Ogopogo getting in on the action. We've had a few sightings this year. Not too much to get too overly excited about, but it's a nice monster story. And this story is not getting hardly any attention at all. I'm probably giving it more attention outside of British Columbia than anyone else has. And so far, I didn't check today, but I checked over the weekend, and there was only 24 people going and just over 50 interested, including myself. I would love to go out there for that. But we shall see. Maybe that one will grow a little bit. The hope for the event is that they find Ogopogo before the Scots find Nessie. Now, wouldn't that be the story of the year? Ogopogo is discovered on that day. That would be awesome. Still waiting to find out that DNA news about Loch Ness. It's supposed to be next month, and that's going to be a huge story. I hope. We'll see. There is a 8-foot tall statue of Ogopogo that rests near a beach in about 20 feet of water. So Ogopogo is already there in the water. And it's interesting because the Facebook event page actually has a picture of that. Recently, I think it was this year, divers went down there and filmed it. It's been down there for 10, 20 years, I think. Now, Ogopogo, for those of you that want to know, is fairly new, I guess. 1924 is since it's been known as Ogopogo, but previously it had a different name. Naha'itik. Naha'it. It's kind of hard to say. I don't have that. Yeah, I mean, you have to see it. Naha'it. That's how they say it. Sounds like somebody's choking on a bone. But essentially, a Native American spirit of the lake. And this goes back a long, long way. And granted, if you talk about Loch Ness, the Loch Ness Monster in and of itself is a completely different creature than what was described there to be centuries old. And every lake in Scotland has its own background, its own monster. They're all go way back in history, as does Ogopogo, predates 1924, but that's more of a spiritual thing. It's not really a physical entity versus what people have been describing, actually seeing this creature Ogopogo in the Lake Okanagan. And it was said that if one did not make an animal sacrifice prior to paddling across the lake, they might be pulled under by the beast. So you guys out there, if you go into that event, you might want to take some, maybe some frozen chicken and throw it in the lake. I don't know. Maybe that'll work. Well, it usually works for me with the Skype gods. Yep. All right, so we'll stay with cryptid news. Got one more story here we'll talk about real quick. Lauren Coleman, who is, it's been around for a while. If you don't know who Lauren Coleman is, check her local bookstore. He's recently released his updated list for books for 2020. He's been involved in cryptozoology since 1960. So next year will mark his 60th year investigating and researching in the field. It will also be 45 years since his first book was published back in 1975, which was called Creatures on the Outer Edge. Books he has written, contributed to, or is featured in run well over 100 books. Lauren will have at least one book published next year titled Merbeings, the true story of mermaids, mermen, and Earth's lizard people. Also written by Mark A. Hall. He's written an introduction for Bigfoot in Maine, published by Michelle Soulaire. That'll also be out next year. And looking through his list of books that he's been a part of, that he's published or written a contribution to somewhere or another, or is mentioned in, he has this complete list. And I'm very proud to say that I've contributed to this long line of books, as Lauren wrote a foreword for my book, Handbook for the Amateur Cryptozoologist, way back in 2015. And for me, it was a great moment for me as a writer, and certainly a kind of a full circle of sorts, as many of my inspirational books in cryptozoology were ones that Lauren had written or contributed to that helped me in my research and understanding of cryptozoology over the years. And I hope that my little book helps contribute to somebody out there and makes a difference somehow, other than being a paperweight or a doorstop. That would be great. And hopefully I'll get some more writing done sometime soon. I don't know. Anyway, that's your cryptid news, and we'll move into UFO news. And we've got an uh-oh. Well, it appears the Storm Area 51 event is officially over. That's right, you heard it here first. Well, maybe not here first, here second, but maybe you'll hear something else first about this event. Well, that's according to Facebook. According to Matthew Roberts, Facebook removed his page from the site on August 3rd, informing him that it went against Facebook's community standards. Roberts has changed his plans of pushing the idea of storming government property to holding a real festival to hopefully divert the traffic away from storming the base. I think that's a noble effort, but personally, I think bringing any more attention to this area, bringing people out there, is a bad idea. Around that time, at least. Maybe if you did it later or next year or some in the spring, I don't know. Bad idea. Bad idea. Facebook also removed the event page giving him no clear reason for doing so. Also removed other web pages that he was associated with on Facebook as well that were dealing with that, as well as the festival event page. And, I would understand if Facebook would have removed this after it became a viral sensation, especially after the government commented negatively about it. But to wait this long, all the way till August 3rd, it's starting to die down a little bit. And now you give it more attention. You're actually giving it more life. It makes no sense. Roberts commented to CNET. He stated, quote, "I think it's pretty reckless of Facebook, especially because I'm trying to direct people away from storming the base, and now I've lost my entire audience." Unquote. Well, that's what the media wants you to believe. And this was the case on August 3rd as the site went dark around 3:45 p.m. But good news, folks. As of around 7 o'clock this morning, the event site mysteriously reappeared. And, well, of course, people have been posting on it in droves. There's a lot more very funny memes, a lot of it with Mark Zuckerberg's imagery. It looks just like that android guy from Star Trek. That's what people are saying, that he doesn't want us to find his brother that's hiding there. A lot of memes, a lot of stuff is just piling up. And now, Facebook shut it down. And, at that point, it was starting to go away anyway. But then now all these news stories were popping up about Facebook shutting this site down. And it's generated renewed interest in this. And strangely, I don't know if it's it's this media attention that brought it back or what the case is. I don't know if they really complained. I've not heard any official notification from anybody associated from the site. Well, I did see some people that claim that it was the media pressure, but have not heard anything directly from Matthew Roberts, nor commenting on any of these stories. Granted, it's only been, it's been 13 hours now, so it's back on. So you can join. If you want to join, you want to hang out with those people in Area 51, which, there's already people that have rented places. RV rentals, I hear, are through the roof right now in that area. So people are going to be showing up in RVs to camp out. All the hotels are booked. I don't know about Vegas. It's hard to figure that stuff out. But there's going to be a lot of people down there. And now with this renewed interest, here in the beginning of August, when it was just starting to die down on its own. Way to go, Mark. Way to go, Facebook. So we'll see what happens now that there is, again, a little bit more renewed interest in this event. I still think it's a bad idea for them to try to hold any kind of festival down there. I get it. You got a lot of people's attention. But I think you've lost control of this event, and there's probably no less than 2 or 3 dozen people that are posting on this site trying to make money. The official T-shirts from 20 different places. Yes, there's an official website created by Roberts, but there's so many rip-off things that are going on. It's just completely out of hand. But there's no way you're not going to get all these people back on one thing ever again. It's taken on a life of its own. It's its own monster, pretty much. And unless you took donations and donated it to something worthwhile cause, I think that would be better. Granted, I don't know how much money people that just sit around and make memes all day have, but bringing people out there, gathering them there is dangerous, because people are going to have that thought of, hey, let's just run across this empty desert and see how far we can get. Let's just do it. Let's just try it. People are going to do it, and there's going to be people purportedly live streaming, even though there's really no Wi-Fi out there. There's no internet really to speak of. And there'll probably be a lot less than that when the government knows that people are going to be showing up. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So, yeah, communication is going to be kind of hard out there. So it's going to be hard for people to get together and communicate out there in the desert. But we'll see what happens. We still have a little over a month almost a month and a half to go before this event. But we shall see what's going to happen. Yikes. Let's move from that to MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, who has released their July sighting statistics. And I've been talking about this for a couple of years now, and hey, this is it's interesting stuff. I mean, yeah, it's scientifically, you can kind of throw this out the window, but I think it's interesting just to talk about these things. So let's see. July usually is the highest month of the year for UFO sightings. Well, obviously, people are outside more. It's a long month, 31 days. It's only one day longer than June, I guess, but it's a long month. People are out. Kids are out of school for the entire month. People are traveling. The weather's usually pretty good. You have July 4th and July 4th events pretty much all week long. People are putting on fireworks a few days a week. There's also a lot of drones out. There's a lot of skydivers out. So not only are people looking up and looking out there, but there's also a lot of things going on that could be misinterpreted as UFOs in the month of July. And this year, on all takes of that, this year is no disappointment. July of 2018, so looking at last year, we saw 757 total sightings, and with 497 occurring in the United States. July of 2017 saw 785 total sightings, with 593 in the U.S. So that leads us up to this year. And this year, MUFON reports for the month of July a total of 733 sightings. So that's a dip over the last 2 years, with 563 occurring in the United States. And that's kind of in the middle between the last two. Actually, it's pretty much in the middle. It's a little higher closer to the higher range of 593 of 2 years ago. So it's pretty impressive. 563 with 733 total. And second place was a tie between Canada and the United Kingdom with just 33 reports. That's not very many. Come on, Canada. You got a lot of space up there. Got a lot of room to see stuff. Aren't people looking at the Northern Lights and stuff like that? I don't know. 33 reports. Next was Sweden with 12. Brazil with 9. France and India had 8 each. Germany and Puerto Rico had 7 each. South Korea and Mexico turned in 6 each. And Australia had 5. I don't know. I could probably looking for... what's the name of that donut place? I don't know. I had a joke, but it ran away from me. I can't find it anywhere. What's the name of that donut place? Oh, I can't remember. Yeah, King says we're looking for criminals in Canada. 23 other countries turned in 4 or less reports, with 15 only turning in 1 report each. Looking at the United States, well, California, there they are, number 1 with 68 reports. And of course, they're number 1 in total population. So mathematically speaking, statistically speaking, they should be number 1 in reports, being that they are number 1 in total population here in the U.S. Next was Florida with 43. Texas had 37. New York had 28. New Jersey had 26. Pennsylvania had 25. And Michigan 23. Washington had 20. Missouri had 19. Ohio and Illinois turned in 18 each. Oregon had 16. Arizona 15. Colorado 14. Idaho and Nevada had 12 each. And North Carolina and Indiana had 10 each. And if I didn't name your state, well, you had less than 10. So poo-poo. Well, and what I like to do is something that MUFON used to do this. And, Tim Hortons. That's what I was thinking of, Tim Hortons. They're busy looking for Tim Hortons in Canada. Anyway, I like to look at the per capita of this. And like I said, MUFON used to do this. I don't know why they stopped. Well, I kind of have an idea why they stopped. It's a little bit of work. and how meaningful really is it? But I think it's interesting to at least break that down to separate these numbers, because these numbers really don't mean a whole lot. Not that the per capita means too much more. But it gives you a little bit of a different look at these numbers beyond just how many states or what state had how many. It's how many per capita. So how many per 100,000 people of that particular individual state. And it kind of gives you which state really had more sightings overall in that state versus a large state like California, a large population-based state. And granted, there's a lot of other factors you could look at, such as square mileage, which I don't do that, and per region. I've heard of people doing that, looking at areas of states and saying, northeast, southwest, southeast, and central, and all that stuff. But I only have so much time to divvy out to this, and I don't really have access to too much of the information. And even then, the information, when MUFON puts it in, they were supposed to upgrade their what's it called? Their CMS. Their all of their sightings were supposed to be. The site was supposed to be updated years ago, and it's really pretty much the same thing they've had for 10, 15, 20 years. So, I don't know. I think they could do better. And part of the problem is that people put this stuff in here as a report. You file a report, you put it in the report. The I can't remember what it's called, the CMS. Anyway, their system, and it could have been from 10, 20 years ago. And it could have been from last month, but it's just hitting July. Or it could have been from 4 months ago, and it's just hitting July. So it's not really separated by exactly when things happened. Now, granted, you couldn't really talk about these sighting statistics a month later, because somebody may not report something happening in July for another few weeks or a couple of months until they actually get around to it or feel like they want to finally get the guts to put it out there. Because sometimes this happens. I've talked to people years after the fact that didn't want to tell their spouse about a ghost or about a UFO sighting that they had. Sometimes people just need time to process this. But unfortunately, the way that the MUFON system works is that sometimes this stuff, it just lands in that that system, and that's just when it happens. So it sometimes it just doesn't make sense. It's just in there, and case management system. I knew it was going to come to me. These things come to me the more I mumble and talk to myself. Case management system for MUFON. Did that a long, long time ago, and gave suggestions as a member of different software that they could use and different ways of putting things in order, and some statistical methodologies that they could look at to try to communicate this information a little bit better. And I don't know. So let's look at the per capita sightings. So sightings per 100,000. 100,000 people is pretty much the standard of how we look at things. And I always use California as the baseline, because, again, California, number one in population. California generally is the top state in reports. And they are again this month. So we're looking at California. It came at a 0.172 per capita. That's not it's not very big. 172. I can't even do the math on how much of a person that would be. But obviously it's 17%. So not very big. And that was a whopping 68. So you put 68 sightings in a lower state. That would be incredible. How high that would be. So anyway, looking at some other states, Florida, which is number 3 in state population, had a 0.202 per capita with 43 sightings. And let's see. Then we have Michigan. Michigan, number 10 in state population, a 0.23 and they had a whopping 23 sightings. Colorado, number 21, in-state population, had a .246 with 14 sightings. So you can see how these fluctuate. So Florida, with 43 sightings, had a lower per capita than Colorado with 14 sightings because of the population difference. So Nebraska, 37th in state population, a .259. So 1 out of, was that 400,000 people? It's not, I mean, that's statistically, come on, it's like nothing. Good grief. It's really minimal. Oh, wow. You can join MUFON for $5.89 a month or $59.88 a year. Or you can pay $2.99 and become a VIP. You get a hat and a shirt. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know. It's going to take a little bit to get me back. They did offer me a steep discount. Every month they kept offering me a discount to rejoin back in because a lot of people left. Let's see. Colorado, number 21 at, oh wait, I already did them. Did I do Nebraska? That's where I left off. .259 with 5 sightings. It's 37th in population. Washington, and that's Washington State. They made it, they're number 14 in state population. .265 with 20 reports. New Jersey, 11th in state population, had a .292 with 26 sightings. Missouri, number 18 in state population, .31 with 19 sightings. Nevada, number 32 in state population, they had a .395 with 12 sightings. Rhode Island rarely has sightings. They're number 44 in state population, .473 with 5 sightings. Hawaii, number 40 in state population, .493. So almost 1 out of every 200,000 people, I think my math is correct, reported a sighting in Hawaii. It's pretty interesting. 7 reports out of Hawaii last month. Idaho, number 39 in state population, .684 with 12 sightings. And they're the winner this month. I don't know what happened in Idaho, but it's pretty significant when you're looking at all the other statistics for the month. Those states, out of all those states, Idaho is the highest per capita. And again, I don't have access to the CMS, the case management system, so I don't know what happened in that month. Generally, what happens is there'll be a number of reports, and it's explainable. But MUFON will never write it off as explainable, so it'll sit in their CMS system for years, and they'll never have an explanation. Sometimes they do, but it's pretty rare. And it'll drive up those sightings in those states. Sometimes they do take them away, because I know there was a few massive reports in Arizona a couple of years ago, and suddenly all those reports just vanished out of their CMS system. But maybe in Idaho something happened in July, maybe a skydiver. It seems like it happens a lot. There was just an incident in Cincinnati over the weekend here in Ohio of reports of UFOs. They look like skydivers to me. I was unable to find that out or figure it out on my own, and kind of give up on that story. It was, I think, only one news outlet was talking about it anyway, so I just kind of ignored it. Texas. What about Texas? It's a big state, the Lone Star State. Do I have that? Let's see. I do have that. Texas. Did I mention Texas? Let's see, Texas. Oh, Texas had 37 sightings. I don't know what their per capita was. It's lower than, well lower than Michigan and Washington. So I don't think I included Texas, but pretty insignificant, unfortunately. It's a big state, though. and people are really it's kind of see, and that's where it gets a little tricky. You have states like California, where majority of the people live in basically two spots, and Texas people are strewn out all over that state. Majority of them living in kind of South Central and Central Texas, or basically East Texas with Houston. Then you have the major metropolitan areas of Austin, San Antonio, and Dallas, Fort Worth. That the ring there of people, and then there's a lot of people scattered throughout the state. I mean, you could drive for like half hour, 45 minutes between towns, even in East Texas, and zooming through a one light town, really. So people are just strewn out of that state. So that kind of provides a kind of an interesting dilemma of how to report these sightings, or how to disseminate them, or how to break them down. But I mean, at least we have MUFON. At least they do consolidate these reports, and they do say how many there are. Not really saying how significant anything is. Occasionally, these things will hit the news, will hit the media, and we'll talk about them here on the Paranormal News Insider. But I don't know. I just like numbers. I like statistics, and it kind of gives us a little bit of a viewpoint on what's out there, what's going on. To be a director or just a member? Well, to be a member of MUFON is $60 a year, or you can do an enhanced membership at $10 a month, or $119 a year. The VIP is $300 a year, and it's a big. You get a kit, so you get a lot more stuff with it. So you get MUFON TV. Would you get that with both? You get a magnet, a hat, and a traveler tumbler. They give you just a bunch of extra junk, it looks like. You get to live stream the MUFON Symposium, so a lot of different stuff. And to be a member is just one thing, but if you want to become an investigator, that's a different thing. And then if you want to become a state director, that's a whole different ball of wax to get into that. They usually want people with a scientific background, or governmental or business background. For obvious reasons, it's a business. But I've known a lot of directors and former directors, and I'm not sure. I just don't want to settle down on any one thing, but I'm not sure I would have the time, and I'm not sure what the current kind of health of that, if I'd want to jump in there. I have a lot of ideas, though. I think I could kind of steer MUFON back in the right direction, but I'll just wait for them to contact me about that. And one last story here I want to talk about in ghost news. And this is kind of late breaking. Kind of a big deal here. Late breaking story. And it seems as though just when you think that ghost television shows are going away, that's right, 2 or 3 pop up out of nowhere on some random network somewhere. As you remember, it was recently revealed that Ghost Hunters is coming back to television, but not on Sci-Fi. Nope, they've moved to A&E Network. It's a little bit more sophisticated now, I guess. And nearly every other network has or has had a ghost hunting-based reality show at one point in time. Yes, even Oprah Winfrey and her network have had a ghost show at one time. So, yeah, it would take me literally 15 minutes to name all these networks. Some networks, like Sci-Fi, have had more than one. And, it started way back before 2004, folks. Lloyd Auerbach was actually on a couple of shows back in the 80s. And that's how the Lights Off really started, because they used to investigate on TV in the dark because it looked cool, scary. And he'll even tell you the story about the producers said, "Hey, this looks really good. This is really dramatic. Let's turn the lights off and do this in the dark." And yep, that's where Ghost Hunters get their T-shirt logo that says "Ghost Hunters do it in the dark." Ba-dum-bum. Well, scientists do it in light. We do it with the lights on. Anyway, the streaming services, now they're jumping on board. I think Netflix tried something a while ago and it didn't work out so well. But Amazon That's why Amazon Prime just announced that it's picked up a new ghost hunting show. This is big news. The good news is that it's not a reality-based television show. So it's not going to be, some group in their cool acronym trying to go out there and show a bunch of fake evidence and talk to a bunch of stuff in a random room. I mean, really and truly, let me just air this. Let me hang up the laundry. Let me climb up on my soapbox real quick. Just one comment. This kind of summarizes all my feelings on the ghost field. So if you ask any ghost investigator out there, any ghost investigation group, anywhere, what happens more? An intelligent, interactive apparition that's going to give you an answer when you ask a question, or a haunting? So something that's imprinted into the environment. It's residual energy. It's not going to answer you back. It's just stuck there in time. Maybe it's repetitive. Stroke of midnight every night or every year or whatever. A lot of different things with that. If you ask any ghost investigation group which one of those two things happens the most, overwhelmingly, they should tell you, if they know anything, are going to say that the haunting is more prevalent, happens a lot more often. And a lot of them will also comment, yes, the actual interactive apparitions are extremely rare. They don't happen all the time. It's pretty rare. So with that being said, why every single time any group goes anywhere, the first thing they do is start asking questions? That makes zero sense to me. And you expect an answer from a residual energy. I mean, you're really just talking to yourself. Anyway, back to reality. The non-reality based show, I should say. This show is going to be called Truth Seekers. Kind of sounds like didn't Supernatural? Oh, it was Ghost Seekers or Ghost Searchers. They had a little spoof a few times during the run of a group. That was hilarious, by the way. Supernatural did a good job. It was a really hokey show, and I'm glad they made it really hokey. Unbelievable. I admired that. At first, I didn't like it, but now I like it, especially with Eric Kripke, who I'll mention here, who's behind another show, also running on Amazon. I'm really excited about that. I just finished watching that a couple of days ago. But yeah, this show is called Truth Seekers, and it's going to be a half-hour show. So very easily digestible. I don't know how many episodes are going to air or how long it's going to go on. It's actually described as a horror comedy about a team of investigators. I mean, aren't they all? I don't know. Co-starring on the show will be Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, both whom starred in the 2004 movie Shaun of the Dead. So if you're a fan of that, you're going to probably love this paranormal series coming soon. Well, we don't know when. We actually don't know how soon or how far away. The show has been picked up, but it's not even started production. So no debut date has been made, but it could debut sometime next year. And I mentioned Eric Kripke, who co-produced Supernatural, wrote a lot of that. Very good show. He's actually behind a Amazon show right now. I highly recommend this one since we're talking about TV shows. This one's a superhero show. It's called The Boys. And if you've not seen this and you have Amazon Prime, you're really missing out. It's hilarious. It's about superheroes, or almost like anti-superheroes, and what would happen if superheroes were really real. And I think this does a good job for it. But yeah, The Boys. Check it out on Amazon Prime, and keep your eyes peeled for Truth Seekers coming soon to Amazon Prime. Just $99 a year. Well, $115 after taxes. Anyway, I'll see you next week. But for now, keep your eyes in the skies, your ears in the woods, the hair standing on the back of your neck, and always keep your mind slightly ajar. And above all else, sing along. Don't stop believing. For the Paranormal News Insider, this is Dr. Brian D. Parsons reporting